Today, we are diving deep into one of the most chilling short stories ever written, Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. And let me tell you, this isn't just a simple murder story. Oh no, it's a masterclass in psychological horror, and we're about to get a front row seat to the terrifyingly logical mind of a killer. Right out of the gate, Poe just throws us into the deep end with the narrator's frantic opening words. From the very first sentence, we're trapped inside his head, and he is desperate, absolutely desperate to convince us that he's sane. But you know how it is. The more someone insists they're not mad, the more you start to wonder. This is the central conflict of the entire story, his perception of himself versus a truly horrifying reality. So to really understand this story, we've got to get inside the killer's minds. Let's unpack his psychological state and look at the brilliant tools Poe uses to paint this unforgettable portrait of madness. And the most important tool in Poe's toolbox here is this: the unreliable narrator. Basically, we can't trust a single word this guy says. He's trying to frame his actions as rational, calculated, even brilliant. But what we're actually getting is his warped version of reality, filtered through some serious psychological instability. He's not just telling a story, he's building a case for his own sanity, and it's a case that is going to fall apart spectacularly. And this technique? It's classic Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, this guy was a pioneer. As a master of the psychological thriller, Poe wasn't interested in your typical ghosts or goblins. No, for him, the real horror came from within. He loved exploring the darkest corners of the human mind with a kind of chilling precision that, honestly, still gets under our skin today. All right, now for the motive. Every crime story needs a motive, right? But the reason for the murder in this story, well, it's what really signals the narrator's complete break from reality. It's not about money, it's not revenge, it is something so much stranger. And there it is. The entire reason for a brutal murder is the old man's eye. That's it. This one single, bizarre physical detail becomes an all-consuming obsession. He fixates on this vulture eye until he genuinely believes he has no other choice but to get rid of it, and the old man, forever. What's so wild is that the narrator himself admits there's no good reason for what he's about to do. He straight up tells us he loved the old man, that the man had never done anything to him. It wasn't the person he hated, it was the eye. And this total lack of any logical motive is, pretty ironically, the clearest proof we have of his madness. Now, this is where the symbolism gets really cool. The evil eye probably isn't just a physical problem. A lot of people believe it's a projection. The narrator is literally seeing his own internal evil, his own evil eye, get it? Reflected back at him in the old man's eye. So to destroy the eye is to try and destroy the part of himself that he just can't stand. So, with his so-called motive locked in, the narrator's madness shifts gears. Now it takes the form of this obsessive, arrogant precision. See, he doesn't just commit a murder, he orchestrates what he truly believes is the perfect crime. And oh, does he take an immense pride in his process. For 7 straight nights, he performs this incredibly creepy, painstaking ritual. This is no crime of passion. No, it's a slow, calculated process that just screams obsession. It shows his chilling need for control and just how detached he is from the horror of what he's planning. And this line right here, wow, this is absolutely bone-chilling. It really shows you the true depth of his twisted mind. He can recognize the old man's terror. He can even say he pitied him, but at the same time, it brings him this secret, sadistic pleasure. There's a complete and total disconnect between any sense of empathy and his actions. So, what's the final push? Well, the turning point comes on the 8th night. The narrator, with his self-proclaimed hypersensitive hearing, claims he can hear the old man's heart just beating with terror. And this sound, whether it's real or just in his head, fuels his rage and finally pushes him over the edge from stalking to murder. And after the deed is done, his pride is just on full display. He boasts about how meticulously he dismembered the body and how flawlessly he cleaned up. And that grotesque little ha-ha at the end, it just shows his ghoulish satisfaction. In his mind, he's proven he's a genius. He's committed the perfect crime. Or so he thinks. But here's the thing about a perfect crime. It's only as perfect as the mind of the criminal. And now we get to the story's incredible climax, where our narrator's carefully built composure starts to crack, all under the weight of what he's done. So the police show up, alerted by a neighbor who heard a shriek. The narrator's arrogance just hits its absolute peak. He's charming, he's confident, and in this final, unbelievable act of hubris, he brings chairs into the victim's room and places his own seat directly over the floorboards that are hiding the body parts. And then it starts. Just a faint noise, a low, dull, quick sound. He tries to ignore it, tries to talk louder to cover it up, but the sound of a beating heart starts to fill his ears. And it's a sound that nobody else in the room can hear. His cool composure just shatters. The sound gets more and more intense, perfectly mirroring his own rising panic and paranoia. He starts to think the officers can hear it too, that they're mocking him, playing a game with him. The pressure inside his head just becomes totally unbearable. And finally, he just explodes. The subconscious guilt, which has become this very real, very loud hallucination, completely overpowers his mind. The perfect crime isn't undone by some brilliant detective work. Nope. It's undone by the relentless, inescapable sound of his own conscience. So the killer confessed, the story's over. But how in the world did Poe make it so terrifyingly effective? Let's quickly break down the key elements that make this a timeless masterpiece of terror. Poe's real genius is how all these symbols work together. Think about it. The lantern is his attempt to control the truth, but it can only shine a light on the eye, the very source of his madness. He then hides the body under the floorboards, this thin layer of normalcy, but he can't silence the beating heart, which is the inescapable sound of his own guilt. It's all connected. And that, right there, is the secret sauce to Poe's horror. The murder itself happens pretty quickly. The real, lasting terror comes from being locked inside the narrator's head, being forced to follow his twisted logic and watch as his mind completely falls apart from the inside out. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Was that beating heart a supernatural, ghostly echo from beyond the grave, or was it something purely psychological, the sound of a man's own guilt, so powerful it became real to him? That's the chilling question Poe leaves us with, a question about the terrifying power of the human mind.